The world of Zelda is filled with all kinds of mysteries, but usually the games aren't that scary. However, as you can imagine, sometimes Nintendo likes to add creepy elements to their games. I mean, Majora's Mask is a great example of this. And so Thinkifer and I decided to look into some spooky myths that have been going around in the Zelda community for ages, to see which ones are real and which are fake. I mean, it is Halloween after all. So without further ado, let's look into these myths. Number 10.
Okay, so without beating around the bush, one of the most harshest of places in Ocarina of Time has to be the Haunted Wasteland, a massive desert between Gerudo's Fortress and Desert Colossus, far outside the land of Hyrule. By all accounts, it was extremely difficult to navigate due to the lack of landmarks and constant sandstorms. And, as you could have expected, it is also haunted. But haunted or not, apparently you can get your hands on something quite special here, an item known as the Phantom Arrows. Allegedly, you could get these if you use the world's finest eye drops on the ghost found here instead of delivering them to the giant Goron found on Death Mountain. So, we decided to give this a shot, but after some testing, we found out that this isn't possible. The ghost doesn't really respond to this. In the end, it is just a waste of time. But we did find out where this idea came from. Apparently, there was going to be shadow arrows in the game. According to the source code that was leaked in July of 2020, there are unused bytes for 3 magic arrows: Wind, Soul, and Dark arrows. And using hacks, they can be used in the game, and we are quite certain that this is where the myth originally came from.
Number 9. Now, in many of the games, you will come across a place known as Kakariko Village, and this also goes for A Link to the Past. And we had heard of rumors of a Cuckoo who could be transformed, which sounded very interesting. So we went to the village to try it out, and when we sparkled magic powder on one of the Cuckoos found inside of a house, we were shocked. This chicken actually transformed into a human woman, which was quite surprising and horrifying as well. We were playing God at this point, and the first thing she said to us was, "Cluck, cluck, what? You turned me into a human! I can even speak! Aha! It must be you who is always teasing my friends. The weathercock is always watching you harass them. Well, this human shape is uncomfortable for me. Ah! I want to be a chicken again! Cluck, cluck." Now, clearly this Cuckoo wasn't too happy with this, and we basically cursed this creature because turning it back is impossible. But it does show that this messed up myth isn't a myth at all. Number 7.
Here we are again, Kakariko Village, but this time the version that is seen in Ocarina of Time. And as most of you know, this version of the village is filled to the brim with spooky stuff, with the Shadow Temple itself being a great example. Now, as much as I enjoy talking about all the creepy crawlies inside of the Shadow Temple, look, that's not what I want to talk about in this present moment. Instead, let me present you the race with Dampé where you get the hookshot. Because apparently there is an extremely rare chance of encountering a strange pig-like enemy during the graveyard race against Dampé. Allegedly, it is known as El Puerco, and originally this rumor began on game FAQs and has been around for a very long time. But is this truly in the game? Is this just wild imagination, or did we really miss this during the race? Well, after all these years, the general consensus is that the initial sighting, if not a complete fabrication, was the result of a player encountering a very rare, if not very odd glitch with the re-dead enemies model. So yeah, this one is false.
Number 7. Now, when Majora's Mask first came out, people were kind of freaked out by the game due to its odd nature. I mean, in the beginning you are cursed, many NPCs are terrified and think they will die, and if you don't manage your time well, the moon will actually crash. And so, as expected, when the game was first released, rumors circulated about exactly what happens when the in-game clock hits 0 on the 3rd day. Some thought that the game would delete your save file, erase all saved games on the cartridge, or brick your system. A lot of people were convinced of this, but in the end, this can't be true, right? I mean, sure, some games have a hardcore game mode where the save file is deleted when you fail, but that's not a thing in Majora's Mask, right? Well, as expected, none of these things will ever happen. But still, so many believed it back then that Nintendo Power even addressed these rumors. They said that while the player should avoid the moon hitting Termina, nothing bad would happen to the player's game cartridge or system. Hell, they even encouraged readers to watch it at least once, since it's pretty cool looking. So yeah, this claim is false. Number 6.
Years upon years ago, when Nintendo started making 3D games for the very first time, they were struggling with the amount of processing power that was needed to run these types of games. That is, of course, until the Fire Nation attacked. So to cope with this rather, hot mess, they came up with clever shortcuts. Some examples included adding loading zones, hidden loading screens, and even cutting down on the frame rate, because, I mean, Ocarina of Time's usually running on, what, 20 frames per second? But apparently they did something else as well, something a little bit more disturbing. So bear with me. According to the internet, almost all the NPCs behind counters actually don't have legs. But is this all true? Well, yeah, and using glitches, you can even sort of, pick them up, and then you can really see what they're made of, or lack thereof. Clearly, Nintendo decided not to spend too many resources on them, so yeah, this claim is true and also a bit freaky. I guess the Nintendo 64 just didn't have enough cabbages to go around.
Number 5. Now, while in most games graveyards aren't too special, in Ocarina of Time the graveyard found close to Kakariko Village actually plays a huge role in the game. I mean, you go there multiple times for the main story, for example to get the hookshot, or to free the sage of the Shadow Temple. But apparently Link can also go there to commit crime, and not any type of crime, but one that is completely immoral. At some point in the game you want to get your hands on a new shield that can deal with fire, and the Hylian shield is perfect for this, but it can be quite expensive. However, according to people online, you can just steal one. Just go to the graveyard of Kakariko Village and rob the graves found there. It's that easy, even though you probably have to defeat some ghosts. But can you really do this? I mean, Link is the hero, so grave robbing is not his style, and Dampé wouldn't allow this, right? Well, after trying it, it turns out that you can do this, and it's the best way of getting this item because the shield is quite expensive. But still, it's pretty messed up that our hero would do something like this. Number 4.
Alright, so for some reason, Nintendo just loves to add all kinds of dark crypts to their Zelda games. I mean, I can't think of a Zelda title that just doesn't have one. Not that I'm complaining, just saying, you know. Oh, I probably might need to add and put in there, but you often do come across all kinds of cursed undead creatures like Gibdoos. Pretty sure my child self was yelling "Gib don't," but anyway. I saw someone online claim that a lot of these creatures are actually the same being. For example, a Gibdo is just a Redead or a Stalfos. And another layer or addition to this online claim was that if you burn away the bandages, you will quickly see that this creature is just a Redead or Stalfos depending on the game. But can you really do this? Well, we tried it, and we quickly found out that the Gibdoos in Majora's Mask are just Redead, while in other titles they're actually Stalfos. So yeah, by the looks of it, Gibdoos are just, like the same as any other undead enemies wrapped in bandages in a lot of the other Zelda titles. Which is pretty crazy, and it makes us wonder who did this in the first place. Well, who knows?
Number 3. Now, earlier in this video, we mentioned how sad The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is and how that impacted the players. And as you can imagine, there are other things aside from the falling moon that affected people a lot. One of those was the Deu Butlers Son, who you see early on in the game, but he is dead. Majora used his soul to curse Link and turn him into a Deku, which was probably very painful. Tattle even says, "Come over to this tree and check it out. It's strange, but the way you look right now sort of looks like this tree." tree. It looks all dark and gloomy, almost like it could start crying any second now. How sad. Now after passing it and going into Termina, you can't go back there anymore. But when you beat the game, you do see the Deu Butler mourning at his son's remains during the new day, which hit a lot of fans right in the feels. And so many of them wanted to save this poor Deku, and so they came up with all kinds of ways of achieving this. They found a way to get past the barrier, and then when they reached the Deu Butlers Son, they tried to revive him using songs like the Song of Healing and even the Song of Time to try and reverse what had happened. But did any of this work? Well, no. Sadly enough, the Deu Butlers Son can't be saved no matter what you do. So yeah, this claim is false. Number 2.
When Nintendo released the Nintendo Switch, we saw a completely new version of the world of Hyrule. Within it, we could see a lot of locations that reference stuff from other games, even the more obscure games like Phantom Hourglass, and that one wasn't too popular. That said, we also saw locations that are a lot more famous, and according to many people online, you can actually find Lawnlan Ranch. There's just one catch, however. It isn't like it used to be. It is now in ruins now due to the events that happened before Zelda Breath of the Wild. Pretty dramatic, but can this be found in the game? Well, yeah, and it's pretty depressing to say the least with the entire ranch in ruins. Rip my childhood. And if you think that's bad, wait till you get a load of this. The people who lived there most likely died during the whole Calamity event, and now the only thing left of it is this. I guess time wasn't all that friendly. Yeesh. That said, if you want to know more about it all, be sure to check out the video that Zelda Master released on the topic.
Number 1. While the surface world of Hyrule is fascinating, we have more places to see now that Tears of the Kingdom is out. We can now go underground where a whole new world can be found, filled with evil creatures. However, you can also come across ghosts of fallen soldiers that will actually give you their weapon. But who are these guys even? Well, according to some, they are actually soldiers that died a long time ago, during the events of Ocarina of Time. And that's because their armor is the exact same as the ones seen in Ocarina of Time. But does that even make sense? Well, if you look into it, it doesn't really. But we get where the idea came from. If you compare these shadows to the guards seen in Ocarina of Time, you can see that they are kind of similar. But if you compare them to the soldiers seen in Breath of the Wild, you can actually see that it's also a really good fit. And in the end, it makes more sense that these fallen soldiers actually died and ended up here after the Great Calamity. They even correspond to places where Link can find memorial monuments. Large stone tablets erected by Zelda, which are dedicated to those who died during the Calamity a century prior. So the implication is that these spirits are some of the soldiers who died in Calamity Ganon's attack, and who are now offering up their weapons to better arm Link in the latest struggle against the Demon King. So we think that this whole claim doesn't make much sense. They clearly aren't from the Ocarina of Time era. No, those were all the myths we wanted to cover, but don't worry, because we also did a video over on Thinkifer's channel, and it's all about the most spooky dungeon ever seen in the Zelda series, the Shadow Temple. So go check it out right now. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out the video over on Thinkifer's channel. It's a fun one, it's an interesting one, it's dark and creepy, it's a weird little theory. Ooh. And be sure to subscribe to his channel and mine. Leave a like on the video, tell me in the comments what you thought about this video, and if you have any ideas, leave them down below. And then I will see all of you in the next video. Okay? Cool. Bye, everybody. Bye. Spooky. Woo.